do all of these foods have in common? They all seem to include the ingredient we know as rice. Whether it's a generic chicken and rice dish, or a savory oriental feast such as sushi, even wine, rice stands as one of the main ingredients when preparing most of our foods today. Before any of it reaches our plate, however, like all crops, rice needs to be grown. Did you know that rice acts not only as a food, but also, in some countries, an entire culture? Unlike other crops, the cultivation of rice has an extensive history and importance. In China, specifically, does rice even have its own culture? From the history and the way it's grown to its other purposes rather than just being eaten. According to archaeologists, many believe that rice first grew when people who mainly relied on hunting and fishing had dropped rice seeds into low-lying areas. From this discovery, the actual cultivation of rice believed to have started 4,000 years ago in the Yellow River Valley in China. As most of us know, the Chinese culture is very traditional and has strong ties to their history and practices of the past. So it's not surprising to hear that many people still practice the same process of cultivating rice as they did about 4,000 years ago. The cultivation of rice in Asian countries follows a specific process. The growth of the rice plant is usually separated by the seasons, thus why rice is called a seasonal crop. The Chinese, as well as other Asian countries, relate these seasons to the sequential process that the rice plant goes through before harvesting. To begin with, the spring season is set for plowing the field and the first step for planting. This is usually done with the help of water buffalo, the only known animal used to working in the conditions of rice cultivation. The fields are then fertilized with either dung or sewage. Next, in the summer season, is rice transported to rice paddies. Rice paddies are one of the most familiar icons to rice cultivation. They are flooded fields, entirely flat or intricately designed on the side of a hill. The point of growing rice in these flooded areas is to increase the amount of nutrients necessary for growth. It also reduces the number of species that would otherwise discourage the growth of the plant. Third, in the fall, is the rice plant picked and sent to harvest. To help with this, some rice paddies are equipped with a device called guide-controlled canal. Guide-controlled canals help drain the field so that picking of the rice plants will be done in easier conditions. Finally, in the winter, the rice is hoarded and made available to the public. The growth of rice alone cannot merely be summed up by the extensiveness of the rice culture. In China and other Asian countries, rice is not just used for our food. It also plays a large part in their everyday culture. China, for instance, uses rice as a symbol in many of their cultural festivities. A few examples include their spring festival. On this day, families make a steamed sponge cake from flour churned from glutinous rice. Chinese people eat this dish in hopes that it will bring better harvest and higher status in the new year. Also, rice is an important part of a dish during what is called, in Chinese culture, the dragon festival, called Zongzi. Zongzi is supposed to be thrown into the river where Hui Yang, an official of the Chu stat, committed suicide. The reason for throwing Zongzi is in hope that the fish would feed off the rice rather than his body. Today, Asian countries such as China and India are the main consumers of rice. They take in an average between 123 to 135 million metric tons of rice per year. In comparison, the U.S. takes in a mediocre 3.9 million metric tons of rice per year. As you can see, rice culture has certainly played its part in Chinese culture, as well as other cultures around the world. To the amount of dishes it serves, the sacredness it plays in Chinese culture, rice is a culture in itself.